Welcome back to Enny's Diamond Stories, a captivating Christian storytelling platform that shares inspiring, suspense-filled, and value-driven tales for families, children, and youth. A place where everyday moments become unforgettable journeys. Each story is carefully crafted to teach life lessons, build character, and reflect Christian principles in a relatable and engaging way. Welcome to the month of May, when many people are celebrating something very special, Mother's Day. Today, we are unfolding a touching and powerful story titled, A Mother's Love in Every Season. From the very first flutter in the womb to the quiet prayers whispered in the night, from guiding tiny hands through Bible readings to homework to watching them grow into strong men and women, a mother's love is a thread that weaves through every stage of life, gentle, fierce, patient, and enduring. In this story, you'll walk through the seasons of motherhood, each scene filled with emotion, devotion, sacrifice, and strength. Whether she's carrying a child, guiding a toddler, counseling a teenager, or sitting under the twilight sky with silver hair and a heart full of memories, a mother remains the heartbeat of the home. So, sit back, listen closely, and let your heart be stirred as we journey through the story of a mother's love in every season. There are people who whisper comfort in silence, who carry the weight of the world on tired shoulders and still smile like everything is perfect. There are hearts so wide, they make room for everyone else and forget to reserve a corner for themselves. These people don't wear capes, but they are heroes in every sense of the word. They are mothers, and today, we celebrate them. But not just with flowers and songs. We celebrate them with our hearts, by understanding why they are too special to be ordinary. Come close. There are stories to tell, and you'll want to stay until the end. A pregnant mother. The house was silent, but her heart wasn't. She stood at the window, the early morning light spilling across her face. One hand clutched a mug of warm milk, and the other rested on her belly, where life stirred and whispered secrets only she could feel. Each kick was a nudge of hope, a reminder that someone small and mighty was growing within. She took slow breaths, imagining tiny fingers, a nose she might recognize, and eyes that would one day look into hers. But with the joy came questions. What kind of world would this child enter? Would she be enough? Would she be strong enough for the tears and tantrums, the laughter and late nights? Her eyes scanned the quiet room, the empty crib, the little clothes neatly folded, the baby shoes untouched. They were waiting, just like her. The sound of thunder rumbled in the distance. Rain tapped gently on the roof, like a lullaby from heaven. She smiled faintly and whispered with her eyes, "I'm ready." The child moved again, strong, steady, as if answering back. And in that moment, she wasn't just a woman carrying a child. She was a warrior carrying destiny. A mother cuddling her baby. The night had fallen like a thick curtain, and silence blanketed the house. In a small room with a dim lamp glowing in the corner, a mother rocked gently in her chair. Wrapped in her arms was a bundle of softness and breath, a newborn baby, barely a few days old. Tiny fingers fluttered in sleep, and now and then, the baby let out a soft sigh, the kind that made the world pause. She looked down at the child's face, eyes closed, lips twitching in dreams. Her hand brushed a wisp of hair on the baby's forehead. Every little breath, every wiggle, every sound, it melted her from the inside. But she didn't forget the tears of exhaustion, the midnight feedings, the aching back, or the sleepless nights. Her body was tired, her eyelids heavy, but her heart, her heart was wide awake. She rocked slowly, listening to the rhythm of life in her arms. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, but inside this room, a different whisper filled the air, love in its purest, quietest form. A tear escaped her eye, not of sadness, but of something deeper. Wonder, awe, gratitude. She had held many things in life: books, dreams, tools, even burdens. But nothing ever felt like this. This was a miracle in motion, wrapped in blankets and breathing softly. This was her reason. A mother praying for the children and her husband. The clock ticked softly in the quiet room. The house had finally gone still. Toys were back in their bins. Shoes lined up at the door. The dinner plates were washed, and the lights in the children's room were dim. But her night was not over. In the corner of the room, near a little wooden stool, a mother knelt. Her hands were clasped, not out of habit, but desperation. Her face, though calm, was streaked with quiet tears. The day had drained her, but something deeper kept her awake. She pictured each child in her mind, the oldest, who always had questions about everything. The middle one, who wore feelings like clothes, and the youngest, still learning how to use words. She carried them, one by one, in her heart. Then she thought of her husband, out there, somewhere between stress and struggle, trying to be everything to everyone. She didn't cry loudly. She didn't use grand words. She just emptied her soul into the silence. Her prayers wrapped around her family like invisible arms. She didn't see lightning flash or hear thunder roar. But something shifted. Peace. Quiet peace. As if heaven had leaned in and listened. She rose slowly, wiping her eyes, her back sore from kneeling, but her spirit lighter than before. In the darkness of that room, something powerful had happened. She had fought a battle, and won, with folded hands and a surrendered heart. A mother planting seeds of righteousness in her children. It was early morning, and the sun had barely stretched across the sky. Yet inside a modest home, something sacred had already begun. A mother stood beside her children, not holding a spoon or broom, but a worn Bible, its pages soft from use. Today wasn't just about breakfast or school uniforms. It was about planting seeds. Seeds that couldn't be seen but would one day shape the future. She spoke with clarity, her voice gentle, as she read aloud words of truth and love. The children listened, sometimes distracted, but she didn't mind. Seeds don't take root in one day. It was the watering that mattered, the daily drops of wisdom, grace, and truth. In the car, on the way to school, she pointed out kindness in action. When someone was unkind to her children, she showed them how to respond with forgiveness. When they were tempted to cheat or lie, she led them back to the path of honesty, not with lectures, but with her life. She corrected with love, encouraged with prayer, and in moments when her heart was breaking, she still stood firm, because righteousness wasn't just something she spoke of, it was something she lived. At night, she would sit by their bedsides, asking questions that made him think. She didn't only want obedient children. She wanted strong hearts, anchored in truth, shaped by integrity, led by compassion. The world outside kept changing, louder, darker, more confusing, but she held fast to her mission. She wasn't raising children just to survive. She was nurturing warriors of light, planters of hope, keepers of peace. Years later, those seeds would bloom. In quiet courage, in wise decisions, in hearts that beat for God. Because one mother believed that what she planted in faith, she would one day see in full bloom. A mother cooking for the children. The morning air sizzled with activity. In the kitchen, the fire crackled beneath the pots, and the smell of onions dancing in oil filled the room. A mother, wearing a faded apron and determination, moved from corner to corner like a commander on a mission. Steam rose, lids clattered, spices flew. She stirred one pot, checked another, and reached into a drawer without missing a beat. Her eyes sparkled with energy, though sleep still tugged at her bones. Outside the kitchen, little voices called her name. She responded, not with words, but with speed. A pancake flipped in the air and landed perfectly. A bubbling pot of stew settled just in time. Rice, eggs, fruit, all marching in line for the plates. Each spoonful she prepared wasn't just food. It was comfort. It was strength for school, for play, for growth. Her children didn't know that behind every meal was a mother who had measured her love in cups and stirred it with hope. Sweat lined her forehead, but she didn't stop. Even when the last plate was served and the kitchen looked like a storm had passed through, she stood in the middle of it all with a quiet smile. She didn't need applause or a stage. Her reward came in the sound of munching mouths and satisfied sighs. She had fed her world, and it was good. A mother taking her children to school. The sun had barely yawned over the rooftops when the door creaked open. A mother stepped out, her hands holding tightly to two small palms on either side. Backpacks bounced behind the children, and lunchboxes clattered with every step. The road ahead was long, but her pace was steady. Cars whooshed by, motorcycles zipped past, dust rose, and horns blared. But her grip never loosened. At every crossing, she stood like a shield, one hand raised to stop the chaos, the other firmly guiding her little ones forward. The children chatted about homework, classmates, and what snacks awaited them at break time. She smiled but said little, her eyes scanning every corner, every shadow, and every movement. When they neared the school gate, her steps slowed. Shoes were checked, collars straightened, and hair smoothed. She bent down, adjusted the bag straps, and gave one final nod. The children ran toward the gate, their laughter trailing behind them like sunlight. She watched until they disappeared inside. She turned around, now walking home with empty hands but a full heart. No one clapped, no cameras flashed, but what she had just done was no less heroic than climbing a mountain. She had walked her treasure safely through a world full of uncertainty, again. A mother guiding the kids in doing their homework. The house buzzed softly with the sounds of dusk. Plates had been cleared, the TV was silent, and the night's breeze slipped through the curtains. At the dining table, books lay open like tiny mountains waiting to be climbed. A mother sat between her two children, one frowning at a math problem and the other chewing a pencil like it might give the answer. The clock ticked louder with every passing minute, but she didn't flinch. She leaned in gently, her eyes moving between pages and puzzled faces. No sighs, no raised voice, only patience, poured out like water on a thirsty land. Try again, her eyes seemed to say. Let's think through it one more time. Erasers danced across pages, pencils scratched, and paper began to fill. Still, her presence was constant, a quiet anchor in the storm of forgotten lessons and spelling mistakes. Time passed. Yawns crept in. The children grew tired, but the mother stayed focused. She wasn't just helping with homework. She was shaping minds, building confidence, sowing seeds of, I can, into the soil of, I don't know how. When the last book closed and tiny shoulders relaxed, she looked at him, not for the right answers, but for the light in their eyes. And it was there, bright, alive, ready for tomorrow. A mother taking the children to bed in the night. Darkness gently settled over the house like a soft blanket. The noise of the day had faded, no footsteps racing down hallways, no cartoon jingles echoing from the living room. Just the hush of night, broken only by the sound of a lullaby floating up the stairs. In their pajamas, the children climbed into bed, their eyes heavy but their minds still dancing with the day's adventures. A mother followed behind them, carrying the soft scent of lavender and the quiet warmth of someone who never stops giving. She pulled the covers up to their chins and tucked the sides tight, like wrapping a gift. She checked the windows, fluffed the pillows, dimmed the lamp, then she sat beside them, whispering calming words. One child asked for water. The other wanted to hear a bedtime story. She answered both, not with impatience, but with the sweetness only love could bring. Her fingers ran through their hair one last time, and her lips pressed a goodnight kiss on each forehead. As their breathing slowed, and their eyes drifted shut, she watched them for a moment, these little lives, so fragile, so full of wonder. She stood, her steps light as a feather, and quietly closed the door. Outside the room, the world kept turning. But inside, peace reigned. Because a mother had done her sacred work. Again, a mother counseling against having bad friends. The afternoon sun poured through the window, casting golden lines across the floor. At the center of the living room, two children sat, their faces unsure, their voices hesitant. School had ended hours ago, but the weight of what had happened still hung in the air. Their mother sat opposite them, her hands folded, her eyes gentle, but alert. She had seen the signs, the sudden silence, the mumbled answers, the strange names mentioned during dinner. Today, it was time to speak. The room felt still, like it was listening too. She didn't raise her voice or scold. Instead, she painted pictures with her words, of friendships that build and friendships that break, of people who smile on the outside but lead others into darkness. She shared stories, some from her own childhood, others that pierced the heart. She spoke of choices, of how one wrong companion could push someone down a road they never meant to take. The children listened, eyes wide, questions dancing on their lips. She let them ask, she let them cry, she let them think. Then she leaned closer, placed a hand on each child's shoulder, and reminded him of who they were. That their value wasn't tied to being accepted by the wrong crowd. It wasn't just a conversation. It was a rescue, a quiet, powerful rescue. One that might change the course of their lives forever. A mother with grey hair very happy being with her children and grandchildren. The house was alive with laughter, the kind that echoed through the walls and warmed the soul. It was a small gathering, but it felt like the whole world had come together. In the corner, a mother, her hair now speckled with silver and grey, sat in her favorite chair by the window. Her face was soft with age, but her eyes still held the sparkle of youth. She watched as her children, grown and with families of their own, filled the room with stories, jokes, and the noise of playful grandchildren. The years had woven lines into her skin, but today, her heart was young again. Her daughter handed her a little baby, one of her grandchildren, and the mother cradled the child close, inhaling the sweet scent of innocence. Her heart swelled. How many times had she held her own children in this same way? The laughter continued, louder now as the grandchildren ran circles around the living room. The sound of their small feet chasing after each other was like music. Her children sat around her, talking about their own lives, their challenges, and their triumphs. And she, the mother, listened. Sometimes offering advice, sometimes simply smiling, proud of who they had become. She didn't need grand gifts or loud celebrations. She needed this, the sound of her family gathered together, the love that flowed freely, and the understanding that these moments, no matter how simple, were what life was truly about. Her hand rested on her lap, still warm from the love of the day. The years had passed, and many things had changed. But one thing remained unshaken, the joy of being surrounded by her children and grandchildren. This was her reward, her legacy, and in this moment, her heart was complete. A mother sitting outside her home looking up to God for the rest of her days on earth. The evening sky stretched wide and endless, painted with hues of pink and purple as the sun dipped below the horizon. The air was cool, and a soft breeze whispered through the trees. In the yard, near the front porch, a mother sat in her favorite chair, worn from years of use but still strong. Her hands rested on her lap, palms open, as though ready to receive whatever the world might offer next. Her hair, silver and thin, danced lightly with the breeze. She looked at the world around her, the garden she'd tended, the home she'd built, the family she had raised. Everything seemed so full of memories, moments woven together by love, laughter, and even tears. But today, she was quiet. Her eyes were lifted, looking beyond the stars, looking into the vast, unknown space where heaven seemed just a breath away. It wasn't the kind of prayer that rushed out in desperation. It wasn't hurried or filled with requests. Instead, it was a deep, still moment, a conversation with the Creator who had shaped every step of her life. She whispered softly, words of gratitude for the years behind her and the wisdom she had gained. She asked for strength for whatever days were left. She didn't fear the unknown future. No, she was ready. Her heart was full of peace, knowing that she had done her best, loved with all her might, and given everything she could. As the stars began to blink into existence, she smiled. She had lived a full life, one filled with purpose, and now, as the evening embraced her, she rested in the knowledge that God had been with her every step of the way. Her journey wasn't over. It was just another chapter, and she was content. As the seasons change, one thing remains constant: a mother's love. Whether in joy or in tears, in plenty or in pain, mothers continue to nurture, protect, and sacrifice. Today, we honor and celebrate all mothers. Single mothers who carry the weight of two roles with unmatched courage and grace. Separated and divorced mothers who still pour out love in the midst of personal trials. Widowed mothers who carry on with strength, preserving legacies and raising giants in the shadows of loss. You are all heroines in the story of life, steady, selfless, and shining. Your love is never forgotten. Special tribute to the mothers who have passed on. And to the mothers who now rest in glory, your love echoes in our hearts forever. You planted seeds of wisdom and faith, you wiped our tears and lit our paths. Even in your absence, your prayers still protect us. You are the stars in our night sky, the gentle breeze in our quiet moments. Though your voice is silent, your legacy speaks. You are loved, missed, and forever cherished. This concludes the story of a mother's love in every season. Each role reflects the endless and powerful ways a mother touches the lives of her children, embracing every moment, whether filled with joy or quiet reflection. Answer: the seasons passed, each one telling the silent, powerful story of a mother's love. From the gentle strength of a pregnant woman to the wisdom of a grandmother looking up to heaven, we've seen that motherhood is more than a role, it's a lifetime calling. It is patient when life is noisy, strong when the road is hard, and tender when all else feels cold. Every prayer, every meal, every bedtime story, every moment of guidance is a gift that shapes generations. So, as you finish watching, take a moment to appreciate the mothers around you, those who love fiercely, serve silently, and hope deeply. If this story warmed your heart, inspired you, or made you think of someone special, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Enny's Diamond Stories. Here, we bring you heartfelt tales that touch the soul and reflect the beauty in everyday life. See you in the next story. Bye.